Okay, let's talk about the big question, citations. Citations are simply a system for you to communicate to your reader and let them know where you got your information. We are using MLA, but this is the goal of every citation style out there. So the first thing you need to understand is how to build a works cited page entry. This is the template from MLA that you would use to generate a citation manually. This does not mean that you can't use a generator, but knowing the elements that go into a citation mean that you can check what the generator gives you, because they are almost always wrong. So the first spot is for author. If your work has an author, list them last name, first name. This will be useful later. If you have multiple authors, you only flip the first author's name around. After you list the authors, put a period. Next, you put the title of the source. Sources are the work that you're using, and sometimes they are large, meaning that they can be published on their own and stand independent of anything else, or small, meaning that they are usually published with other works inside of a different collection, a book, or a journal. Books and plays are big works, while journals, articles, poems, chapters, works in an anthology, essays, and short stories are all smaller works. Big works are put into italics, while small works are put into quotation marks. You end this section with a period. Then we have containers. Containers are what the work exists in. If you have a larger work, well, then you've already given the name of the title, the name of the container, so you would only use some of the information here. You don't need to list the title again. But when you have a smaller work, you list the title of the container that houses the smaller work. The title of containers are always italicized, and they are followed by a comma unless they're the last element of the container 1 section. In that case, you would just put a period at the end. Other contributors are people like editors, illustrators, and photographers. If someone helped out with your source but wasn't the author, you put what they did. Edited by, illustrated by, etc. You put that there, followed by their name in the regular first name, last name form. Use a comma at the end of this section unless it's the last element of the container 1 section, in which case you would use a period. Version is rarely used, and it refers to special editions or other odd types of works that you can find. For example, I have the annotated anniversary edition of Alice in Wonderland. Use a comma at the end of this section unless it's the last element of the container 1 section, in which case you would put a period. Number is used with journal articles. Journals are published a few times a year, and when the year is over, all the journals from that year are gathered together in a book. That book is the volume, and it always has a number. The specific journal inside that volume will also have a number, and that's the issue number. You put vol in front of the volume number, comma, NO period in front of the number, and then you follow that section with a comma unless it's the last section, in which case you'd use a period. Publisher is used for books, and it is simply the name of the publisher that's listed on the spine or in the back of the title page. Use a comma at the end of this section unless it's the last element of the container 1 section, in which case you'd use a period. Publication date can also be found on the inside of the book or in the information that accompanies the journal, or update date at the bottom of a web page. Use a comma at the end of this section unless it's the last element of the container 1 section. Location refers to the physical location of the work inside the container. This is always followed by a period. When you're using web pages, you also want to list the physical location, of the web page, so you would include the URL for the web page as well. The second container section is used when you are retrieving items from a database. Journal articles are inside journals, and most journals are inside a database. It's like nesting dolls for research. This section is usually much simpler since you will only use 2 sections. Title of container is the name of the database, and the location should be the direct URL to the source. Always be sure to take the URL for your citation from the persistent link, if it's provided. Most of the time, the URL in the navigation bar won't work for a return visit. So, MLA uses parentheses in the text, which are called parenthetical citations, to refer to a works cited page. The works cited page has all the information, and the parenthetical inside the body of the essay has the minimum amount of information required to get the reader to the right spot on the works cited page. And any information is also included about what you've used from the source that isn't included in the works cited entry. So if you have a specific page number that you need to give the audience because you're using a quote or a direct paraphrase, you also include that in the parenthetical. In order for the system to work well, everything on the works cited page is alphabetized, so the reader doesn't have to hunt around. So how does this reference system work? Parentheticals always have whatever information is touching the left-hand margin at the beginning of the works cited entry. For example, if I have the following works cited entry by Claire Tomlin, my in-text citation would include the author's last name, Tomlin, in the parenthetical. If I'm not referring to the entire work, I'm referring to a specific spot in the book, I would also include the page number. If my work doesn't have an author, like the Curiosity Rover Report, I wouldn't even list an author's name because that section's blank. The first thing that touches the left-hand margin is Curiosity Rover Report, which is what I would put into my parenthetical. If I was using multiple Curiosity Rover reports, I might expand what I put into the parenthetical to include that date, August 2015. But if I'm only using this one, then Curiosity Rover Report is enough to get my reader to the right spot. Also, since it's a video, I don't have a page number. If I wanted to reference something very specific, I could include a timestamp. The formatting of the works cited page is also designed to help your reader. The works cited page should be on its own page, and it should have the title Works Cited centered at the top. All of the entries should be the same font size and style as the rest of the essay, and they should be double-spaced. However, the entries should have a hanging indent, which is this thing right here. This is done by highlighting the entries only, right-clicking, going into the paragraph menu, and selecting hanging indent at 0.5 inches. This creates a page that all looks a bit like file folders. Da-da-da-da. After your entries are all in, put them in alphabetical order, either manually or by using the A to Z button with the little arrow next to it that's on the Home tab. Once that's done, your reader can see a source in the body of your essay, let's say the work by Copeland. Then they can go to the works cited page and just go down the list until they find a work by Copeland. This is why we use the first bit of information in the parenthetical. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on your works cited.